co-founder of Scalar Academy. It is one of the fastest growing upskilling platforms. He's also co-founder of InterviewBit, an online platform for tech interview preparation. He is an alumnus of IIT Hyderabad and was one of the founding team members of Facebook Messenger. Over to you, sir.
No, thank you. Thank you so much. Just one correction there. I was an alumni of Triple IT Hyderabad, not the IIT. But thank you again for inviting me here, and very, very glad to be talking to everybody here. What I plan to do in this session is maybe just quickly introduce who I am and what Scalar is, talk a little bit about our journey, to maybe stress more on what has it taken us to scale to where we are, which is what were, let's say, the first 6 months like, and then what were the next 2 years like when you grow in this hyper mode, and then what mistakes did we make, what could we have done better, and what have we learned from that journey. So those are the two parts that I'm going to broadly focus on. And then post that, I would love to take questions. Given all of you are also in the same sector, right? So if you have challenges that you're facing, if you believe that maybe our insights could help you, I'm very happy to share insights. But I'll start with the first part, which is the introduction. So my name is Anshuman. I am one of the founders here at Scalar. My journey is that I started my career as an engineer with Facebook, where I grew internally within the ranks and finally got to leading the team that was building Facebook Messenger. So if you have used Messenger, then you're running a lot of my code. I know it's not as popular as it used to be before, so I'm not even sure if everybody is using Messenger. Then I also was involved in setting up the London office for Facebook, which was their first engineering office outside of the US. I did that along with a few other team members, hired the first 100 engineers there. And then I moved back to India in late 2014. And one of the reasons I moved back to India was that I come from a family of engineers. So I have two younger brothers. They are also doing engineering. And I recall that there were incidences where my younger brother was telling me that how his college was telling him to memorize code because the code was, the question was going to appear in the exam. I felt that was broken. So one of the reasons of making the move back to India was to see if I could help contribute to the tech education ecosystem. Our first attempt there was starting InterviewBit. InterviewBit was this Duolingo for programming. So in case, let's say you wanted to get started with programming and then maybe you wanted to target interviews at top tech companies, then it was sort of a path to get to that long journey path without any human involvement. So it was completely product led, very high engaging. But after having run InterviewBit for about 4 or 5 years, what we realized was that education is of two kinds. You have asynchronous form of learning, which is sort of, if you think about your early education. In your early education, you would have books that you would study from. They would have all the content. And then you would actually still go to school. And school had this ecosystem where there was this human teacher teaching you. So if you had a question, you would ask that teacher. You were not learning alone. You were making friends in that ecosystem. You were learning from them as well. It wasn't only about hard skill learning. It was about your overall development as well. In general, there was better support ecosystem. There were better completion rates with synchronous form of learning with that ecosystem than as compared to books. What we realized was that over that journey of 2014 to 2019, we were building a very high quality book. In fact, all of the recorded playlist and courses that we have, Udemy, for example, is a book, is a fancier book, but it doesn't really replace colleges. And again, if you think of what is missing in our ecosystem or what can be better, what needs to be scaled better, it is not the content. India has the access to the same books that the world has access to. So it isn't obviously the dearth of books or the content. It is rather the dearth of or scaling the ecosystem, the colleges with very high quality. That's what's missing. So hence, we realized that while building books is a great business, at least for us, the reason why we started or with education was we wanted to help augment colleges in some ways. So hence we launched with Scalar, what is known as Scalar, where the idea was like, how do we go about building an online Stanford? Where the primary metrics that we were targeting was what happens to people after the program, which is what is the kind of jobs that they get, what do they go and do in their careers after, and that was our primary success metric. Now we've been operational for 4 years now. We've had more than 10,000 graduates from Scalar. Today we enroll roughly 2,000 to 3,000 people every month at a 3 lakh price point. And KPMG did an audit on our placements sometime early last year, which was around 3,000 odd people that had graduated back then. Based on that audit, our completion rates for a completely online program, which is 1 year long, is roughly 92.6%, which I am told is very, very high, probably one of the highest in the world. The placement rates are, I mean, anybody who completes ends up getting placed. So it's almost 100% there. The average salary jumps for people who were in work before is approximately 2.3x, etc. Right? So it seems to be working. The engine, whatever it is, it seems to be working. In fact, the top employers that kind of hire from Scalar are the likes of Amazon, Google, Microsoft. All of them are on the layoff spree today, but they were hiring a lot last year and the year before that. Now we have a different set of employers who continue to hire from Scalar. So that's very quick part of our journey of what we have done and why we have done what we have done. I just want to maybe spend 10 minutes on what it takes to scale an education business. And then I will open the floor for questions. I think one of the things to be very cognizant about is that education, at least in my experience, is all about brand. Education is a brand game, and there is no other way to put it. If people see you in a very different light, then your quality of intake, the seriousness of intake, the pricing power, everything gets driven by it. And if it is a game of brand, then what drives brand? And in the field of education, again, outcomes, success outcome metrics, they in some ways drive your brand. If I have alumni that work at great places, they're doing fabulous job, the quality of talent is very high, your brand will automatically be taken care of. So then the question is, how do I scale while maintaining this brand? So in a way, I mean, one of the things that you have to be very clear in the beginning, if you're building an education business, actually, if you're building any business, is you have to first start with what is your North Star metric, which is every business should have a singular focus. What are you optimizing for? Who is your audience? When do you call yourself successful versus when do you not call yourself successful? And I understand that like revenue could be a success metric, but I mean, revenue should be a byproduct end outcome. It shouldn't be the primary thing that you start with. So firstly, start with a North Star metric. 2 is have control variables, which means that there has to be some metric that you know that you cannot compromise with. For example, for a lot of businesses, that is NPS. NPS is Net Promoter Score. It is in some ways, it highlights how happy are your customers and how likely are they to recommend you to other people. So you have control variables like NPS, or let's say percentage of batch that has great career outcome. Maybe it could be completion rate. It could be, let's say, I mean, you could have leading variables like, let's say, number of people completing assignments or doing whatever is part of your defined as activity in your app. So there has to be some control variables which are essentially indicative of when do you stop scaling, when those control variables start to go down. So you can't scale unless your control variables are in check. And this is probably the one thing which is very different about the education business and not the other sectors. In education, if the brand is compromised, then it becomes really hard to recover from there. For most other consumer businesses, it is okay to have glitches. It is okay to have these Twitter threads where consumers aren't happy, and then you know that it's temporary, you'll get over it, etc., etc. In education, since it is only about the brand, isn't about competing on pricing, etc. Um, Especially for the education that is more like colleges. Um, Hence, you need to have control variables that you keep measuring, and you stop scaling when those control variables are being affected. So that's the second thing. So you have a primary North Star metric, then you have your control variables. One of the other, I mean, there are a few learnings which I'll just mention, which will help some of you who will get into the scaling mode. One thing is, apart from education, your GTM, which is go to market, which is your marketing and sales team, they are equally important teams. Now, some of you might already be a marketing or sales experts. I was not. And while like we had deep insights on how consumers think, we were not marketing or sales experts ourselves. And the best way to augment departments where you don't have expertise is hire people who are much better than you. They have done or executed at a scale where you want to get to. For example, one inflection point in the Scalers journey was hiring sales and marketing leaders who had been at much larger company, had driven teams at much larger scale. For example, our first marketing hire was the person who was the head of marketing for Upgrad. Our first sales hire was the person who was the fourth person in sales team at Byju's. And that person was leading a 400 member team back then. So after them coming, the journey for GTM became much easier because they had seen journeys at much higher scale before. So you have your North Star metric, you have the control variables. The third thing, hiring is super important. You are going to have departments where you are not going to be the expert. You have to be involved, but you wouldn't know every single thing. Make sure you hire people who have operated at a scale that you want to get to. So the third part is hiring is super important. That should take most of your time. As founders, one of the rules is that at least 30% of your time should be going on hiring and talking to potential people you would hire. 70% of your time goes on business and execution on education, especially. So the third piece is hiring. Fourth piece, which is I think it's a function of what environment we're going through. If it was 2 years back, I believe like as long as you had decent metrics, even decent vanity metrics, raising funds would have been much easier. Raising funds are slightly harder in today's ecosystem. However, companies that do well on metrics that matter. For example, in education, it is again like things like completion rates, things like what is happening to people pre and post. Even when you do a great work there, funds are there to be had for early stage companies. In bear markets, the best kind of startups get made. Because capital does get deployed in the early stage sector because the returns would come when the recession would be over. We are in a down cycle right now, bear market right now. So good news is if you focus on the right metrics, it won't be super hard to raise funds. You should, however, have reasonable expectation on valuations. The valuations were kind of wonky 2 years back. There's a new normal right now. However, funds are available in the market. So what I would suggest is if you're building in a profitable way, if you're building in a sustainable way, great, awesome. Even if you're not, focus on the right kind of outcome metrics. If you have strong metrics, there will be capital available to you. So start talking to investors if your business requires more capital. Those are the four things that I believe helped us in our journey. Clarity of North Star metric, which was clear to every member in the team. Clarity of control variables, which if compromised, then you stop scaling. Hiring the right people wherever you have expertise gap, people who have executed at a scale where you want to get to. And fourthly, focusing on the right metrics, which helps you get capital if you need capital. that is it from my side. It was short and sweet, but I would maybe then focus more on taking questions and help out if I can, some of you.
Thanks. I think that really is what we thought would be the right way to do it. So I'm going to open up. So Anshuman has quickly read a little about you. So when you raise your question, just take 30 seconds to after your name, your company, and what you're doing. And if you want to add into that the questions pertaining to your challenges or your views about scaling or what your concerns about scaling, if the questions can be focused around that, then I think we'll be able to.
Yeah.
So whoever wants to start, you can. Yeah.
Yeah. Hi, Anshuman. I'm Piyush Gupta. I'm co-founder at Stride Ahead. And so we help edtech companies and universities, those who are providing job tech courses, in reducing their CAC and improving the user experience for the better outcome. So the question here is regarding the hiring that you've suggested, that hire the best people from the industry. But the problem, the early stage.
No, actually, let me rephrase. Not hire the best people. Hire people who have executed at a scale where you want to get to.
Exactly. I mean, yes, but these people, they are pretty costly for an early stage startup. So what are the alternatives that you would like to suggest?
Yeah, I mean, so look, I mean, let's say you have 10 such people, right? There are some of them who are going to be with conventional mindset, and they would require a large amount of cash to be able to hire them. Whereas there are some who would be more adventurous in a way, where if there is a decent cash component, but if there is a large ESOP component to them, which is they see that like there is a risk, but there is a large upside to them if the company succeeds, then you would be able to hire them. So for example, we have a very large ESOP pool. Today, even after dilution, our ESOP pool is roughly 15% of the company, which we distribute between key hires and employees.
Hi, Anshuman. This is Chinmay. I am founder of a company called Imagine XP. Indirectly, we are connected through a partner as well. So what we do is that we are a new university brand, and we run new age degree programs with universities. I have 30 partners across the country in India, 2 in the Middle East, in the Southeast Asia region. My question is more on a strategy perspective, that what you guys are doing at Scalar. I recently saw that you guys have got into UG programs. I think just 10-15 days back that announcement came in. So I wanted to understand from you that what is your thesis as an organization around UG, how you are looking at it, getting courses into the university, and what is the strategy behind it, and how is the sentiment of market going towards higher education, specifically in the embedded in university cases?
Yeah.
What I wanted to understand from you.
Sure. By the way, like we have tried the UG segment before by actually building a course in parallel to the university, which is like you're enrolled in a university and we have courses where you can enroll. What we realized were 2 things there. One is it is very hard to get time from people when they are in the university because they're already busy with their college courses, grades, college life. That takes precedence over everything else. And the students are not that mature to understand which one has to take priority. And 2 is even the paying capacity for somebody who's already in a college is lower because the parent is the person who's going to pay, and they've already paid a large sum to the college for the degree. So hence, we said if we have to really build for the market, then it has to be that you start from the point of origin, which is sort of admissions into the college itself. And there, to be honest, like we don't believe that we'll build a very large business here right away because, to be honest, the 2 things, being selective and producing high outcomes versus like building a large business, they're both competing with each other in some ways. But like the reason why we're still doing it is because we believe that we could create a great template for other people if this program is successful. So we believe that the current way the UG programs are conducted, they need a large revamp. And it's obviously like if we go to somebody with that message, nobody's going to trust us. People are going to just send us away. So we want to show that in some ways that, look, here is a new template to run it. It produces much better quality of talent and output at the end of the program. So, and if you look at the program structure, the way it is structured, the curriculum is vastly different from current existing UG programs. For example, the program is structured in 18 plus 1 year plus 18 months, which is you have 18 months of coursework, which basically covers everything that our UG programs of today cover. Then there is 1 year of internship with companies, and then there is 18 months of specialization, which basically gets into either the depths of AI and machine learning or gets into depths of software engineering, scalable software engineering. So somebody graduating from the program theoretically would graduate as a SD2 with 1 year of experience because they've done this 1 year of internship. And then there are certain elements to help people start companies like you guys are. but I mean, the North Star metric there is to make sure that people who graduate from the program, they're wildly successful in their life, with like not even just one notch, but like multiple notches above other kind of talent. And then that becomes a model that other players, either in the edtech segment or in the college segment, are able to adopt. And it just improves the overall education. If that happens, then we would consider that a success.
Go-to-market there, you look at it. So now there are multiple instruments to do that. If I talk landscape perspective, there is a regular degree which allows 60-40. There is an online degree. Then now foreign universities are coming in. Then hybrid degrees and multiple things are twinning degree. All those set of things are happening. Right. So from a GTM perspective, based on your thesis and your research, what do you think? Is it going to be like what you are doing? Is it's in the online degree space, or you look at an offline degree space like you and me must have done our graduations, or foreign university partnership?
Yeah, I mean, so the program is offline, which is program is physical. However, the degree, because we can't actually provide degrees, we are not a UGC accredited institute yet. So for the degree, we leverage the online degrees that are available, which people enroll in parallel to the program. So currently we leverage the BITS Pilani BSc in computer science degree. And we have tie-up with a European institute that gives the masters after that. The reason to again stick with bachelors from an Indian institute is because eligibility for all government exams is driven by a UGC accredited degree. And if you have a foreign university, then you sort of lose that optionality. Most people might not want to lose that optionality. But yeah, I mean, from a GTM standpoint, we do understand that degrees are important. And in some selfish ways, like being associated with BITS Pilani helps us navigate that to some extent.
All right. Thank you so much, Anshuman. Would look forward to connect with you more on this. But yeah, thanks.
Sure. No, thank you.
Hey, Anshuman. I'm Rohan here from Super Scholar. So what we do at Super Scholar is in the upskilling space, but exactly the opposite kind of roles that you guys do, right? So you guys are upskilling in the very sexy aspirational jobs that a small chunk of India wants to go for. We focus more on your BA, BCom graduates that just want a good job but don't even have the skills to get that, right? So my question here is, you guys have obviously scaled Scalar specifically over the last few years very, very fast. So how has your role as the CEO and founder changed with that, from when you guys started Scalar to where you are today?
Right. I mean, unfortunately, as you scale, you become less hands-on, which is you can't be doing everything yourself. You have to get better at delegation. You have to get better at hiring and identifying the right kind of people. One of the mistakes that we also made in the early days was we hired people based on their credentials and what they were doing at their last company. But like that is not always a good indicator of how good you are. But one of the things that I have tried to do, at least in my personal capacity, is that I have continued to teach. Because if you teach classrooms, then it helps you know what is going on the ground, what's working versus what's not working. It's in a way like what product leaders do through user calls to get an insight of what is happening on the ground. I do that through taking classes. But I mean, yes, as you grow, as you become a CEO of a larger size company, you become more hands-off. You have to start working on structures and processes more. You have to spend more time on building the right structure, right processes, so that you are aware of when things are breaking, versus actually being very hands-on and doing a lot of things yourself. So you are the one creating those structures and processes. You're hiring the right kind of teams. You're building the right kind of cultures in those teams. That becomes your focus more and more.
All right. So on the same thing with regards to hiring, I'm sure you guys do both hire externally, senior folks externally, and promote internally. So which one do you prefer, and which one does Scalar rely more
I mean, it can't be one or the other at any point of time, because look, I mean, if you have a person who is growing, absolutely, we would love to prefer them. But the truth of the matter is sometimes company grows at a much faster pace than an individual can. And in those cases, if you are not able to then hire the right person because you have some attachment, emotional attachment to the person who is there in your team, then the company's progress will suffer. Some metric will get impacted because the other person is still struggling to get to that level. So wherever we see an opportunity to promote somebody internally, we obviously take that as the first step. However, we are cognizant that there will be cases where company outpaces the growth journey of an individual. And in that case, we go and hire externally. The one thing we do, however, in parallel is that we need to build good coaching frameworks for individuals. So there are a couple of, by the way, handbooks. So there's this guy who who's a leadership coach who coaches a bunch of CEOs in India. I'll see if I can find that doc. So that has some framework on how do you coach, let's say, your org leads to become better. So you should have that, which means you're giving people opportunity to grow. Two is one of the things that we saw work well for us was that we tried taking favors from some industry leaders as mentors. And we connected our respective org leads from that domain to that leader to do, let's say, once a month kind of a sync up and try to see what else could they learn to get better. But like, I mean, even in spite of that, there will be people who will not be able to grow at the pace of the company. And hence you should be okay hiring externally then.
All right. Thanks a lot, Anshuman.
Okay, next question. So while people are thinking of the question, I can clearly see that there's what you are understating is the quality of execution. Because many of the things are not that people haven't tried. So maybe behind these things which look logical, difference is execution. So can you just reflect a bit? Maybe these company nationalists will have to reflect a bit and say, yeah, that's how everybody should do it. But just comment a bit on the execution.
Right.
Excellent.
I think one of the things that I was alluding to, sir, like when I said there should be a North Star metric, is the part about focus. One of the main reasons why I have seen most companies not do well is because they tend to do too many things at the same time. They would have 80 different verticals while I'm still a very, very young company. And when you have lesser focus, I mean, nobody is superhuman apart from people like Elon Musk to be able to handle so many different verticals at the same kind of execution excellence. So the first thing that, I mean, assuming that we are all not Elon Musk, like the first thing is we should start with a very narrow focus that we're focusing on. Then the second part is, to be honest, like execution excellence comes from a combination of the amount of attention you're giving it, how agile you are in changing things when things are not going well, and to some extent, the kind of expertise that you yourself possess. For example, I do believe that we were able to do well in tech education because both me and Abhimanyu, who's my other co-founder, we come from a tech first space. We ourselves were decent engineers in our previous life. And hence a lot of learnings from there have been borrowed here. I'm very sure if we were not from tech, getting somebody else to do the same thing would have been much, much harder. So I know that this is probably still a very superficial answer, but I mean, focus on a narrow thing, expertise, and a lot of attention. I mean, when I say a lot of attention, what I mean is day and night. If I ask you, what do you think about? I mean, this is what you think about day and night. If you have just a lot of obsession over metrics, if you have a lot of obsession over your work, I mean, sooner or later, you'll get to the solution.
Anshuman, this is Anand Sudarshan. Question for you is, what is the single most difficult thing you have found in your quest for hiring talent?
What is the single most difficult thing in hiring that we found?
Hiring talent.
Yeah. I think it's so it is said that founders have to be great salesmen first, because you're selling your future of the company in some ways to investors. You're selling your product to the consumers, and at the same time you're selling the vision of your company to who your potential hires are going to be. And like what we've realized was that, look, I mean, now we are probably slightly well known as compared to how well known we were maybe 3 years back. When you are an early stage company, which is not very well known, attracting talent which has so many options is hard. And there, I mean, doing a great job at selling, where the other person goes back with the emotion that yes, there is something extraordinary happening with this company, and I would want to be a part of the journey because I see myself growing 10x faster if I stay with this company for the next 10 years. That's the hardest part. I mean, I as a founder was nobody. If I was talking to the head of marketing at Upgrad, it's a selling that person that leave a company which is 5 times our scale and come join a company which is much smaller because it's doing the right kind of things. That takes a lot of selling, and that's probably the hardest part for a founder, selling your vision to the prospective employees, where they trust you to come and join you on your journey.
Hello. Hello. Hi, Anshuman. This is Lucky Rohila. I'm the hi. I'm the founder of Quantal. We call ourselves India's expert network. We provide customized mentoring solutions to the organization, to the pool of network that are present in our system. I have one question, because as sir was saying about the right strategy to hire talent, and you were saying that you have to be a right salesperson. So there was a case study that I have done. So when we were an early stage startup, so I was looking forward for a good marketing guy, because both of the founders, like, I was more into sales. Like, I was like, more into getting business for the company, and the other guy is more into the technical part. So we're like, we need some good marketing guy. And the same thing I did. I tried to sell my business to a bigger guy who's working in a company who has a decently funded startup, working on a decently funded startup. So he was a VP of that company. So to sell, like, to make that guy, leave that particular company and, join my company, I found a weakness. The weakness was key. That guy was in a fear that they will not give him the position of CMO. So I was like, let's do something. Let's do a deal. So I guess you are a right guy. You are a VP of that organization. I can offer you one thing. Work for my organization for a period of like 6 months or something. I'll give you a position of CMO. So something that aligns with his goal as well in the future. So he joined my organization like for a period of 6 months or 7 months. So I was like, yeah, I'm doing a bit good sales. Like, I'm, attracting talent. But at the later stage, I figured out, this was my learning. At the later stage, I figured out in the early stage startups, if I am, getting these bigger guys, so that guy was totally unaware about the ground realities. He was working over the Excel sheets only. And I was continuously saying him for the period of 3 months that you are only working at the Excel sheets. What's about the ground? So a lot of things happened, and we actually, we have to made a hard decision. And after 7 to 8 months, we had to, ask him to leave. So, so that was one of my personal case study. At an early stage startup, if you are asking the bigger guy to join, and it's very difficult for him also to, define the ground rules, work over the ground. He only work at the upper stage, just manage the, delegate a lot of work. So it became a bit difficult thing. So I decided that, you have to look forward for a mentor only, and you look forward for a people that can actually add more value and work over the ground. So actually that was my call I wanted to share. And one more.
I completely agree with that. Just one few caveats which I will add. So what I said before, right? You want to hire a person who has executed at a scale where you want to get to. That scale need not be $1 billion company right away. The scale could be, let's say, if you make let's say $100,000 in revenue today, the next scale could be, let's say, a couple of $1 million in revenue, right? So that is one. You don't want to take a very large leap right away. Two is in hiring. One of the most important step is the ref check. And ref check not from people that the person gives you, but rather ref check from your own network of how the person is performing at wherever they are. That's a step that if you skip, so a lot of times people appear very, very good in interviews, they appear very good in credentials, but they might not be as good at execution. So both also important, but yes, completely agree with you. If you hire somebody who, let's say today you are a company that does 100,000 in revenue, and then if that person is a multi-billion-dollar revenue guy, then that person would execute at a very, very different style than what might be required for a company that early.
Sure. Adding one more question I have. So I guess in the starting of your, presentation, you said like in education, brand plays a vital role.
Yeah.
So I have seen like there are other companies as well doing similar to Scalar, but I know a lot of people only know Scalar Academy. So something you have done actually, something that uplift your brand as compared to the other brands, as compared to the competitors. So they're like similar brands I met in Noida. I met them. They're also working bootstrap. They're also working well, but I never heard their name. And I was like, I have only like, whenever they explain me their business model, I'm like, okay, similar to Scalar. Okay, similar to Scalar. So they're like, yes. So something actually you have done to uplift your brand. So can you elaborate more over that? Because that's, you are saying that it's some more vital role. So can you uplift and, help us guide more over, what exactly the different strategy or whatever your mindset was to uplift your brand, like how everyone knows and, take Scalar Academy as an example.
Right. Yeah, I think the other part also is, by the way, if you have a great brand, that also increases your pricing power. Most other players probably don't price as much as we do. We're able to do that because of the brand awareness and brand strength. So typically brand is broken down into two parts, right? One is what is your brand awareness, which is how many people know about you. And two is your brand image, which is when they think of you, how do they perceive you? Those are the two parts. I think the brand perception comes a lot from what is the substance inside the brand. Because if there is no substance, which is, let's say I'm a very bad education company. Now, no matter how much money I spend, even if I'm able to create a temporary good image about myself, it will get revamped over a period of time, because I mean, my consumers are going to talk about me in the market. When people go to do ref checks or they want to ask like, how is this player, they'll get negative ref checks, and hence there is going to be a decline at some point of time. So the first thing that you have to solve for is that your core, the soul of the company is very solid. There you're doing a great job, right? That's the step number one. And a lot of things then get derived from there. If your product is very solid, sometimes like brand image, etc., happens on its own. So now that you've done that, then the second step is, can I accelerate my brand awareness journey? Can I accelerate my brand image journey? And for that, to be honest, a very lazy answer is you throw money at the problem. A slightly more frugal answer is you figure out creative ways to get virality. Now, those could be through, let's say, creative marketing campaigns. Those could be through, let's say, for example, we have leveraged success stories, our students posting about their success stories on LinkedIn a lot. That has worked well for us. So LinkedIn as a channel has been one of the traction channels that has worked for us. So typically in your journey, you'll have to figure out like, what is the traction channel that is working best for you? What are the unconventional methods that give you virality, which are frugal ways of getting more eyeballs. The second thing that worked well for us was influencer collabs. So we've done a few of those, and like that has given us a lot of eyeballs and hence help with the brand awareness. But all of that, again, just flagging, all of that is step number two. Step number one is, if your soul itself is not very strong and solid, while you might spend money on marketing, at some point of time, it will all come crashing down. So very short answer for your question. We did have decent marketing budgets to be able to create the image that we have been able to create, but we've been slightly innovative there to be able to get more done in less amount of money.
Thanks, Anshuman. Thank you.
Do we have time for one question? Oh, no, after you guys.
Yes, we have time. 15 minutes. We have 15 minutes, right? We can go on for another 15 minutes.
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
Great, thanks. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, hi Anshuman. My name is Atul. I run my company called Designers Academy. So, what Scalar is kind of doing in the technology space, we're kind of doing something similar in the design space. We're quite early in the product cycle, but we have the similar kind of approach. When I saw your website as well, and the same European accreditation company had approached us, and that's where I saw it's a similar kind of approach. So we are also trying to go to an unconventional way of learning and setting up a program, which could be very different from what the compliances and what the UGC accreditation and everything works around. And we feel that there's a very huge need over there. So I am also from an ID product, right? But I have seen there are problems with that system as well. So we are trying to change that. So I wanted a little more detail about the accreditation bit, if that's possible. Like, first of all, when you were already running independent programs, right? But then why did you get into this kind of a structure? And also how easy or how difficult it is to get an accreditation which provides an online degree, or I think it's physical spaces that a campus has been set up. So if you could put a little light on that.
Right. By the way, like majority of our programs, which is today more than 90% of our intake, they enroll for programs that are not accredited. Accredited masters is an upsell over people who've already enrolled, which is approximately 10% of the intake. However, the bachelor's route that we've taken, which is a physical program where we'll do a 4-year program with people who are residing there and then like getting an accredited degree, that's a very different path. And the way is, and to be honest, like we look at that business very differently. What you'll realize, by the way, like when it comes to degrees, is people who already have a bachelor's degree, there the need for an additional degree is very, very less. In fact, there is a need for acquiring the right skills, which makes you hireable for the employer. So skills versus degrees, it is very clear that if you already have a bachelor's degree, then skills takes precedence. The only exception to that rule is that if I come from a sector which is very different from the sector that I want to get into. Imagine I am a BCom graduate and I want to become a computer science engineer. In that case, there are some people who look for a master's to reset their credentials so that companies take them seriously. So that's the thing there. In the bachelor space, nobody wants to give up the optionality of having a degree. I mean, and the reason for that is like, to be honest, in the outside world, with the current regulation, there are a bunch of things you can't do if you don't have a bachelor's degree. You can't apply for work visas in most countries. You can't sit for government exams. You can't go for masters in other universities. You can't do a PhD if you don't have a bachelor's. So the reason to look at accredited degree in the bachelor segment is because it is in a way necessity. Unlike the post-bachelor segment where it is a optionality and where people care more about skills than degrees.
Devashish and then Vijay and then who else, just to line up the question.
I'll ask in the end, let others.
Yeah, so whoever wants.
Hi, Devashish here from NIT University. I'm heading computer science area. I just have one question from you, that this new education policy is now coming with multiple exits in program. So suppose one student enroll for BTech, but after 2 years, after 3 years, he may leave with something, certificate or diploma or finally degree. So how you actually will adapt those if they want to come back to education after 6 years or 5 years of job? Please guide us so we can plan also.
Sure. I mean, so in our context, because most of our programs post bachelor's, they don't even have a degree. So to be honest, like NEP doesn't make a difference to those programs. NEP only makes a difference to programs that actually have a degree to them. I think where it does make a difference is the current bachelor's program that we're trying to run, because now the government allows that, let's say you might have a bunch of credits in your credit bank that you can transfer to another university if you want to take a transfer from one university to the other. So that could be a a way for lateral entry into the bachelor's program that we have, we don't know yet. I mean, but that's something that we could see happening in the future. It's still, I mean, NEP is, I would say, is still young, in a nascent stage, still being implemented. There will be some initial teething issues. So probably it will be in a better shape by next year. We're also hoping that by the next year, we'll also have the digital university also in place, which the Indian government is planning. So hopefully, like, we'll be able to do something with that.
So I have one question, which is, well, a couple, which is just stepped out, so I'll put them here. Regulation is one of the biggest risks for all of us.
Yeah.
So NEP is promising a lot, and therefore that shows opportunity, right?
Right.
And yet we see that UGC, AICT, which way they will flip when, even though policy is going another way. So how much do you think about the risks in the, let's say, if you're looking at academic bank of credits, suddenly that state university the minister may say, sorry, this is not allowed. So how much do you think about risks? And I just want to give an example here. Many, many years ago, when the state started the technical universities, there were colleges affiliated to large state universities. And there was a point when each university had 100 engineering colleges, 200 engineering colleges. So governments took a decision that every state will create a technical university. And many of them happened as Rajiv Gandhi Technical University or whatever. Then the engineering college is only affiliated, not the other college. So they had a two-layer thing. At that time, NIT signed up with Rajiv Gandhi Technical University in Madhya Pradesh. Which year was that, Vijay? It was before 2006. We were in Kalkaji then, right? And that was the arrangement that some part of it we would do, some part they would do. So we enrolled, and we probably started the course. But fortunately, maybe just about 80 or 100 enrollments. The Vice Chancellor who had signed that arrangement with us, he took the initiative. He had known about NIT for a long time, and he wanted to do reform, he wanted to do whatever. Government was saying you should find ways. He signed up, and then he got transferred. He came to what was then DTU. It wasn't DTU then. It was Delhi College of Engineering, which was a very prestigious institution. He came there, and the new guy who came in his place as VC was a very, very conservative fellow. He wrote to AICT saying that we are running this course, kindly verify that this is okay. He wants to save his skin. The bureaucrat at AICT says, we will investigate the matter till further notice, don't take any more admissions. We get a letter from RGTU, please halt the program because we are seeking clarification from AICT. Nobody said you can't. Suddenly we found one parent, two parents, three parents coming. We used to be, before we were in Gurgaon, we were in the Kalkaji office. And and one thing which I do want to tell everyone of you, we handle that. This is now by the time, post GNRT, post anything, but any such situation, when our admissions people would say something, then Vijay or I or Rajendra or someone would meet the parents, and suddenly we came to know through them. We didn't even, they didn't tell us, they didn't bother to tell us. They told us later, that letter which is typed on so-and-so date, a month later, sent to the wrong address. By the time it comes to us, parents have already come to us. Fortunately, it was early in the game. And what had to be done, and I'm explaining that because you better build the wherewithal to do that. I went to the Chief Minister's office. Fortunately, we'd been in business by more than 20 years then. And who was the Chief Minister then was Madam Uma Bharti. I went to her office, and it was quite an impression that she's the saffron dress and two Alsatians on her side. Why, I don't know. And
one in front of her.
No, well. So then she said, so she'd been briefed by her secretary that NIT is very good, we should tell them to come and do something. So she said, Mr. Pawar, thanks so much for coming. We want you to do something for the state. I said, Madam, I'm very sorry, but we want to have nothing to do with your state. She looked at me. She looked at her secretary. Did she say something wrong? So she said, why? So I said, if you give me 5 minutes, I'll explain what has happened. I said, on this date, this happened, this date, this happened, this date, this happened, this happened. And I said, I have 80 parents who are saying, did NIT cheat us? She was red in her face. She looked at her guys, says, call the people. So I said, just want to say, we are not going to take those people. She said, what do you want us to do? I said, take those students and take them into your university. And whatever we have spent and wasted, we are not going to ask for. But you have to take responsibility. I just did what was the best to do. I have to give credit to her. She saw the logic and promptly told them, all these students go to the university. So parents were very happy because now they found a formal university rather than this complicated method. But if I hadn't gone, we could have been shut down. Because I gave you the example of one risk-averse new vice chancellor and a more risk-averse, not a normal government bureaucrat officer who says, till further notice, don't take admission. He's not said these guys are bad or anything. He just said, till further notice. Now, are you thinking of those risks? Because this is one precaution I want to give to everybody here. Do not underestimate the risk from regulation and design your plan anticipating that if such a thing happens, therefore, how do you work around it? So I wanted to know whether, of course, the world is different now, but the world of policy doesn't quite become the world of execution. So depending on who is the chairman of AICT, or we had very progressive people and we have very regressive people, and they're not bad people. It's just that they're groomed in a system which believes that everybody's out there to cheat. That happens. So give your views on what you've encountered, if you've encountered, or how you would if something shows up.
No, so we haven't encountered anything firsthand, but we've been advised by everybody to not design anything that is dependent on either UGC or AICTE. Because I mean, I think this exactly what you said, sir, like very similar experiences from other people as well. Hence, like in our case, we had a very conscious choice that we will have people enroll in a program that does not offer degree. In parallel, we will enroll people in a bachelor's program of BITS Pilani, which is online, has nothing to do with Scalar. It's a program which anybody can go and enroll in. And that way, as long as you clear those exams, etc., you end up getting the BITS Pilani degree. There is a separate parallel program that is running. I mean, a very conscious choice to build outside of the purview of UGC and AICTE while solving for degree in some ways. In general, we also believe that you should not design a business where there is a large uncertainty of an organization which can fluctuate just the way you described. In such a case, you could execute really, really well, but your business might not end up doing well because there was something that happened in the regulatory part, which is not in your hands. So hence in our design, at least what we've done is we've kept the degree piece as a parallel, which happens through a online degree, which anybody can anyhow enroll in. And if they want to raise question there, then they're not raising the question just for us, but for the entire online degree ecosystem.
So I presume you are investing time to educate the board of BITS Pilani, not to raise a question to the HOD who's agreed to make the arrangement with you. You have to be mindful of that, so that if tomorrow someone in the board, the government, government has board members. I don't know, BITS would have a board representative. So those board representatives, where I was in the IIT board for 15 years and then Vijay was there for many years. First time I encountered the finance ministry, the financial controller of the education ministry was a member. So one department of IIT had put a very good proposal, and he's the HOD, and this financial controller says, oh, there is a finance angle to this. What would an academic understand from this? He says, okay, sir, he killed the program. Second time the guy said same thing. Then the director said, this is a problem. I said, what is the finance angle? They all looked at each other. So next time when the guy raised finance angle, I said, what is a finance angle? I told him very forcefully. He had no finance angle. So question is, you may anticipate it, just may not be anything, but anticipate that an aberration in a bureaucratic system could even be indirect. So while BITS Pilani online is allowed and they're a strong institution, you should do your homework to say tomorrow they send a letter saying, look, hold on, there's some objection. You have to seek a meeting with Mr. Kumaramangalam Birla and say there's your organization's violating on a principle. I'm just doing the Uma Bharati parallel. Because at that level, nobody will come to your rescue. So anyway, that just last question.
No, just to elaborate, I mean, yes, we do realize that, and like, to be honest, both BITS Pilani as well as this program gets offered through Coursera. So both of them are in the loop. We have written agreements with both parties.
Coursera, you don't have to worry about. See, Coursera is a
platform,
a company where they would have used rationality, and whoever is a CEO is empowered by the board, and he has to handle his board members on very many issues. Whereas in an institution which is working under government regulation, regulators can have unreasonable power, and if the director is not very strong. For us, that was the example there. Earlier VC wouldn't care a damn about the bureaucrat because he was strong. So anyway, just a word of caution. Solution.
I'll just add in a point over here. So I did a lot of research on this initially when we were also starting degree programs. And in fact, BITS Pilani is the only campus before online degrees and all of this happened. They were the ones who were offering a BTech course online. Till today, UGC does not allow to run any BTech program which requires attention at the campus online. But they have been doing it. What they say is they also don't work directly under the norms of UGC. That's what the institution is doing. And they are under that university of eminence that we call 3.5 NAC and above. And they have the power to run their own courses, and whatever UGC says, they don't, I don't want to do it.
Not true. No, I'm saying,
That's what I understood. I may be wrong. But
yeah, we can hear. Parimal, of course, was there a long time back. Again, it depends on the strengths of the director of the institution.
Correct.
Right?
BITS Pilani was running the last semester as a practice school way before it became a standard.
Correct.
So BITS Pilani is a tough cookie, and they are genuinely.
They don't care what is happening at the UGC level.
Beyond a point, they don't give a
Yeah, that's what I was.
So maybe just elaborating on that, like the framework is like making sure that none of the institutes have to do anything special for us. This is something which is available in the public purview. For example, today anybody can enroll in a program in IGNOU, and there are specific design guidelines for what makes you eligible and then what is the process to enroll, right? And even if, let's say, there is a coaching institute that says that, hey, here are 100 people, why don't I ask all of my students to enroll into the IGNOU program? That is because it's a parallel. IGNOU runs its own program and you're not asking IGNOU to change anything. It's perfectly legal. And anybody asking to put a stop to that essentially puts the entire IGNOU program at risk, because you're saying that, I mean, now nobody can enroll into the IGNOU program. It's not as legit. It's very similar to that. Like BITS Pilani today has a program which is open in the public purview for anybody to enroll in the BSc in Computer Science program through Coursera. They have a set of eligibility criteria. They accept people once you have applied to the program. We're not asking BITS Pilani to do anything special for us. We're saying that we'll enroll these 200 odd people. We'll ask them to enroll in the BITS Pilani program through Coursera. Just like anybody else in India can. Okay. And they will complete the assignment on Coursera.
Yeah. Last question, then we've gone beyond the time.
Okay. Hi, Anshuman. I am Vijay Thadani from NIT. Just wanted to ask you two parts. One, how does your connect with the employer system work? And at what stage of the course do your students get connected with the, or you get connected with the employer system for a particular student? Right. And the second part is that if the hiring season is going through a winter, let's call it the hiring winter right now, are you looking at overseas students? Those are two questions.
Right. So I'll answer both of those. So one is On the Employer Connect, like we have some history there. When we were running Interview Bit, which was the Duolingo for programming, the only revenue source that we had then was that we would work with employers to help them hire talent. We would not, I mean, it was a free platform for people who were there on Interview Bit, but we had access to their information, their performance, and hence we would be able to make an intelligent choice on who to connect to which employer. During that journey, by 2018, we already had connects with about 450 odd employers, including all the large names in tech. So when we shifted to the scalar model, to be honest, we started with about 450 odd employers who we had signed contracts with. And that has helped massively. Today, we have about 950 odd employers that we work with. Mostly all enterprises are part of that pool. And we have, with some employers, we have some commercials for hiring. With some employers, we have free hiring contracts, but we have some or the other contract with these employers. Now, the way the process works is like for an employer, they don't think of your graduation schedule. They have, I mean, the way the employers work is that, look, I mean, today I have a vacancy in this team. I have to fill that vacancy as soon as possible. And there are two variables through which, let's say, the talent acquisition person is judged. One is how quickly am I able to close that position? And two is how many interviews do I have to take? Which means like, what is your hit rate? When you interview people, how good are the people? Which means how few people do I have to reject to actually get to the right person? So those are the exact two things that we measure. So employers come to us. They say that, hey, here are the teams where we have vacancies. Here are the kind of people that we're looking for. We look at the set of people in our ecosystem because we have a batch starting every month. So our graduations are also happening every month. So we look at the set of students who are about to graduate or have just graduated and match with those skill set. And then we connect them with employers. But before that, we have a process where we take their mock interviews to check whether they are actually ready or not, because we're trying to optimize the metric of the success rate when they are connected with the employer. So we have an additional filtering layer. If you clear that, then you're connected with the employer. So that's the question on the employer and at what stage do, let's say, students get connected to the employer, and how do we maintain that metric of time to closure and hit rate with the employer. Now on the hiring winter, to be honest, India is one of the countries which is, I mean, look, all countries in the world are affected because of whatever is going on in the economy. Probably US is the worst affected. What we see is, in terms of the number of jobs available, India is still doing better as compared to most of the other nations. So for us, it has been now, I mean, what has changed is that earlier we used to work with very narrow set of employers where every employer would end up hiring 15 to 20 people every month. Now we have to work with a very wide variety of employers where let's say an employer would hire maybe 1 or 2 or 3 people every month. So the effort to make the same number of hires is much, much higher. But what has changed in this ecosystem is that now, I mean, we're going much broader than what we had to probably 2 years back.
Okay, thanks. Thanks.
Okay, so thanks so much. Really appreciate your candid views.
Thank you.